This is Bernard Rose from Trailers from Hell, and I want to talk about KAGEMUSHA, which is Kurosawa's film that he made in 79-80, which ended his exile from Toho Studios and brought him back to doing a Jidaigeki again. KAGEMUSHA, which means Shadow Warrior, is basically the story of a thief who was about to be crucified, who is saved because he is a dead ringer for Lord Shingen, who was a very powerful warlord in Japan. He's saved because they know that at some point they may need a double to either as a decoy or for something. And of course what happens in the film is that Shingen is mortally wounded and the clan is terrified that they're going to be overrun by their neighboring clans, so they institute the thief as their lord, and he has to fool everybody. He has to fool everybody from his grandson to his wives and to his horse. And of course the horse is the hardest one. And he becomes their spiritual leader. And I think that the film is a brilliant parable, historical parable, in that instead of us saying, here are great men who are great leaders, it's about how the people really elevate somebody to stick on the front of the train, and that as long as they believe in them, they can function as a great leader. It's a kind of wonderful deconstruction of the idea of history, that history is led by heroes, when in fact it's just movements of people who take a hero and stick it on the front of the train. And I think the film is filled with extraordinary, powerful scenes. One of the best being the simplest thing, just of the Lord sitting in front of his retainers who know he's a fake, and suddenly convincing them just by changing his posture. And they start to believe that this could be actually Lord Shingen. And there's something terribly moving about that. And I think there is something very moving and touching about the whole film. In many ways, this film came at a very interesting period of Kurosawa's life. He actually tried to commit suicide after he was fired off Tora 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 and couldn't get any funding in Japan anymore for a movie until, of course, George Lucas and Francis Coppola came along, and Lucas owed Kurosawa because he'd stolen the plot of Star Wars from the Hidden Fortress and was a huge fan of Kurosawa and the films of that period, especially I think Yojimbo and Seven Samurai, and which clearly had influenced Star Wars a lot. Even the name Jidaigeki of the genre became kind of the Jedi of Star Wars. So he wanted to pay him back in some way, so Coppola and Lucas went to Toho and said that they would like to co-produce Kurosawa's next picture. And Kurosawa had been planning KAGEMUSHA for many, many years, to the point where he'd actually drawn full color paintings of every single setup for this film. They paid for the film, and it wasn't very expensive. I think it was still under $10 million. And it was an enormous success. Won the Grand Prix at Cannes, and it was nominated for Oscars, and it totally started the late period of Kurosawa's career, which then went on to Ran and many other pictures. For my money, KAGEMUSHA is in some ways a better picture than Ran. Ran has a bigger reputation now. But KAGEMUSHA is such an interesting way of looking at history, and such a unique interpretation of that key moment of Japanese history when the civil wars ended and the shogunate began. It's a wonderful film, and it's very moving and very touching. If you've not seen it, you should see it.